Right, this is a video idea we recently saw suggested in the comments, and one we quite like the sound of. Initially, I thought there'd be loads of players who have had 10 plus clubs, and that we might have to raise it to 12 or 13 to make things interesting. But as is so often the case, I was wrong. Take someone like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who is 37 now and rarely sticks around at a club for long. Even he has only had 9 clubs, so 10 plus is quite an impressive haul. To make matters clear, it's 10 plus clubs, not 10 plus transfers. So if a player has 3 separate stints at a single club and 8 other clubs, he may have had 10 plus transfers, but he hasn't played for 10 plus clubs. We are, however, including loan moves. Here are the 7 best footballers to have played for 10 plus clubs. Luca Toni. A brilliant centre-forward who really came alive in the penalty box, Luca Toni was often described as a bit of a throwback or old-school striker. Strong in the air and accurate with both feet, he could hold the ball up well and had natural goal-scoring instincts. Having been most prolific during the mid-2000s with Fiorentina and Bayern Munich, he enjoyed a remarkable renaissance in his late 30s with Verona, even becoming Serie A's top scorer for only the second time in his career. Now aged 41, Toni only hung up his boots 2 years ago, and Verona were the 2006 World Cup winners' 15th club. Chris WADDLE. A rare free spirit and creative midfield technician within English football during the 1980s and early 1990s, Chris WADDLE is a seemingly somewhat underrated footballer. A 2-time PFA Team of the Year inclusion and 1-time Tottenham Player of the Year during his time with Tottenham Hotspur and Newcastle United, WADDLE went on to join that rare group of British footballers to enjoy success overseas. The England international became a big hit in France with Marseille, where he won 3 league titles in 3 seasons, before returning to England with Sheffield Wednesday. WADDLE later turned out for a string of non-league clubs, taking his total list of clubs up to 14. JARI LITMANEN. A supremely talented footballer who enjoyed his greatest successes early in his career, JARI LITMANEN later became something of a journeyman. Finland's greatest contribution to the world of football, Litmanen was a fantastic technician who scored and created goals prolifically. He played his best football for Ajax in the mid-1990s, where he won the Champions League and once scored 36 goals in a single season from midfield. He later turned out for Barcelona and Liverpool, but injuries restricted his contribution. He played for exactly 10 clubs. VIERI. Subscribers to this channel will most likely know that I'm a big fan of VIERI since I've shared my thoughts on him a couple of times in the past. At his best, VIERI was among the most devastating strikers in my lifetime. He was bullish, powerful, and predatorial. You knew you weren't going to get a moment's rest as a defender up against VIERI. Sadly, however, as with Litmanen, VIERI was very injury prone. Most prolific during his time with Inter Milan and his single season with Atletico Madrid, where he averaged better than a goal a game, VIERI played for a grand total of 14 clubs. Rivaldo. The top 3 players in this 7 all feature in our recent look at the 100 greatest footballers of all time, starting with Brazilian maestro Rivaldo. Another widely underrated footballer, on his day, Rivaldo was perhaps the most unstoppable player of his era. Capable of changing a game in an instant, the bandy-leg Brazilian had explosive technique, real creativity, and a remarkable rate of goal scoring during his peak at Barcelona. In many respects, Rivaldo's willingness to go on in football as he tumbled down the footballing pyramid and turned out in nations as far-flung as Uzbekistan and Angola somewhat detracted from his legacy as a truly world-class footballer, and undoubtedly one of the greatest of his generation. He too played for a total of 14 different clubs. George Best. There seems to be a link between extremely talented footballers who are either slight mavericks or injury prone and have relatively short peaks, and players who turn out for a number of clubs, at least if this 7 is anything to go by. In terms of peak performance level and an early demise, there is no finer example than the man in second place in this 7. George Best had won it all in his early 20s, but he was done before he even reached his late 20s. Having been a one-club man in his prime at Manchester United, Best subsequently made 17 transfers in just 10 years. Since he had 2 spells with the Los Angeles Aztecs, Best played for a total of 17 clubs. The honourable mentions. The player who probably came closest to making this 7 is former Newcastle United, Manchester United and England striker Andy Cole, who played for 12 different clubs and is the 3rd highest scorer in the Premier League since 1992. Another former Premier League striker, Nicolas Anelka, made our shortlist. a really gifted and complete centre forward, and Elk had an impressive career, but he was always a little bit of a journeyman, also turning out for 12 clubs in total. Lastly, we'll give an honourable mention to Frank Worthington, who was a genius at his best and played for a whopping 24 different clubs. We've no doubt you'll have your own suggestions, so make sure to let us know about them in the comments, as well as any future video ideas that you may have. Before that though, it is time for Top Spot. Romario. There will no doubt be those in the comments who are outraged by Romario coming in ahead of George Best, but the Brazilian ranked higher than him in our 100 GOATs video, so he was hardly not going to today. Romario also had a bit of a playboy lifestyle. He hated training, he was perennially lazy, and almost unbearably arrogant. However, Romario was so good, and his arrogance so justified, that despite all those flaws, he spent the best part of 2 decades as one of the best players on the planet. Romario spent much of his career playing outside of Europe, but he was absolutely sensational when he did play in the continent for both PSV and Barcelona, as well as being more prolific than Ronaldo for Brazil. A deserved first place then, Romario played for a total of 10 clubs, retiring for good in 2009, aged 43. So that's it for our 7. Thanks for watching, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for more from us if you enjoyed the video, and you can now also follow us on Twitter for more ramblings from me. Our username is simply @HITC Sevens.